This is the Average to Savage podcast with Paul Guarino. Everyone and anyone, athletes, celebs, and much more.
What's up, everybody? I'm back for another episode of the Average Savage podcast. Our special guest today is Christina Lila Wilson. Christina, how's it going?
Very good. Good to be here.
Let's just jump right into it. Could you give us a brief background about yourself before I ask you some in-depth questions?
Sure, yeah. I'm directing social innovation for AngelHack, which is a global developer ecosystem and hackathon and accelerator company. Love it. It ties together so many things I'm passionate about. Before that, I worked with a group focusing on investing in women, and I've worked for quite a few nonprofits around the globe too. So really, we're trying to kind of connect a lot of the social impact innovations with technology and startups.
Gotcha. And you went to UCLA for an undergrad, and you went to Georgetown for graduate school. What did you study there?
I studied social and public policy at Georgetown, and before that, an undergrad, I studied political science and religious studies. I was definitely still exploring, which I still am today, but yeah, I really enjoyed all those areas.
So, going for those two degrees, what was your, goal to, job-wise or career-wise?
It's a good question. I mean, at the time, I really wanted to be involved in human rights, and I thought the legal path would be really powerful for that. But then I was working in that field, and I think I got a little disillusioned. I worked, wanted to go into the nonprofit industry. After that, I thought that was the biggest way to make change, and always had this passion for kind of international issues. Mm-hmm. So I couldn't find the perfect path that would combine all those things I always loved as a kid. I think for a while I wanted to be a global spy or something, but not for not for any government. So, but I think empowering people in their dreams was always something I wanted to do. And then after some time kind of being disillusioned with the nonprofit industry that, it's so focused on fundraising constantly, and, your hands are tied in a lot of ways to make big impact. I definitely had another iteration in my career goals and stumbled on this intersection of this amazing startup tech community and how just lightning fast it was, and how it was this space where people could experiment with all sorts of creative solutions to all society's problems. And just, it was so exciting and had this fire and electricity around it when I started kind of getting into the hackathon and the tech space. So even after Georgetown, I ended up doing a tech boot camp just to kind of really dive in and get more exposure. And then that led to this, which I totally didn't expect, but that is really, creating a platform for people to come on and experiment and pursue their entrepreneurial dream, which I think a lot of us think we're in the age where anyone can do anything they want, but I think we're just at the very beginning of that, the potential that we have to go so much further.
Yeah, for sure. I was just talking to one of my friends the other day that has a daughter that's, I think, 11, and I was just everyone's just going to be, way smarter just because of all the technology.
Yes. I mean, we see it. So I'm constantly humbled at our hackathon. A lot of times the winners are 15 or 14 years old. Yeah. And they've literally had so much experience. And I mean, one of our winners, the investors were all grilling him, and he was 14. And they were like, what are you going to do if this thing you're presenting is actually successful? And, and he had already sold 2 companies, so he was way ahead of so I'm very excited, when that generation, the people that have had that passion to always learn have had resources humanity's never had before. So I think we're in for some amazing surprises.
Wait, the 14-year-old sold 2 companies?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, he's a blockchain developer expert. He lives in California. I think he's been back in school now, focusing on that. But a lot of the ones we talk to, they feel a little held back by school. We've definitely seen it all. And a lot of the ones internationally are from very poor backgrounds also. And it's just amazing to see what they've done to be able to bring themselves the resources, and how hard they've fought to always be learning.
Yeah, for sure. Now, going back to UCLA and Georgetown, so those are 2 notable schools. What was the difference between going to school on the West Coast and then coming back to the East Coast, and Was it a different, like, how different was the experiences and, like, the cultures there of, like, the colleges?
I'm definitely, I grew up on the East Coast and spent a lot of time on the West Coast, so I always had a love of both, but I do think they're very different cultures. I think for Georgetown, I was really missing this electricity that I felt on the East Coast around dream building and just, people will move at such a fast pace and be ready to go work on an idea, on social justice that was just contagious amongst all the people they would bring together. So I think I was very lit up by that. I definitely loved UCLA. I loved the diversity at UCLA, and I just got to be exposed to so many different things. But I was more in the political. I was like, at the time, I thought politics was going to be the avenue I wanted, to take. And I went through a few phases of disillusionment. So, but it was very good. It was good for all the good debates and exposure to different ideas.
Yeah, definitely. And how did that all lead to you going to AngelHack or working for AngelHack?
It was actually through, I went through, like, the time that I was disillusioned with the nonprofit space, I really felt sad, and I was like, I just felt like, wow, this, it was sad to see so many of the paths I thought were going to have all this avenue to do so much were kind of fading away. So I definitely went through a time of, like, confusion, and but I followed the things that I saw that were working, and I was with a group that was literally organizing hackathons as a volunteer basis, and we would do them around global issues. Like, we did one around Pakistan issues, and Pakistan has some of the worst problems in the world for corruption and illiteracy, all sorts of poverty issues, so many endless things. And we would do hackathons building solutions to some of the specific problems, and it was amazing. Like, ideas people built, prototyped in a weekend, were able to be implemented and impact millions of people's lives. And that, I was doing that on the side while I was working for a nonprofit that was helping women in entrepreneurship. So it kind of started coming together, and then the AngelHack group was trying to, expand globally, which to me, I was always so passionate about, the global aspect. To me, it's like this beautiful part of American culture, like the innovation that we do, have this great respect for, and the work ethic and that culture of even around Silicon Valley. I always felt like, okay, the whole world needs this. And now in so many communities we see around the world, they're just going ahead, even in some areas like for example, the Arab world has more women than Silicon Valley involved in the space. Like, I think one in 3 companies has a female founder. So it's amazing to see, like, the really high levels of adoption and progress they're getting for innovation, startup investment, all of that. Like, the scene is just lighting up all over the world.
Yeah, definitely. And can you just give me, like, a brief summary of what AngelHack does?
Sure, yeah. So we started really just as this weekend competition around tech, and people would come together and, would focus on one problem or an industry, and people would create their solutions, work all day Saturday. They were always overnight, so people would sometimes stay up all night. And then Sunday, they would present to angel investors, and by Monday, at least one or a few of the teams would have investment to really experiment with their idea. So that was the initial model back in 2011. From there, we've really expanded on, how do we keep a lot of this magic that is sparked at the hackathon to encourage them to test and launch an experiment. So now we have an accelerator that is 12 weeks long that will, take at least one of the winning ideas and put it through that so it has that longer term support. But it's been really amazing to enter some parts of the world that didn't really have a very strong scene, and there's something very contagious about it. It's fun. It brings that fun feeling back to that space. Like, you're working with such different people than you usually would. I mean, that used to be, even Edison's Invention Factory was like bringing, people you wouldn't typically work with, and that's when you get that fresh thinking outside the box at different ages, different backgrounds, everything. And so, we've still evolved from there. Now we will run hackathons with partners around the world, always, with different themes. We do it for governments that are looking to support new innovations, or, people looking for specific solutions in an industry. And then we have this tour that does about 50 cities every year, competition and then startup investment.
Yeah, that's crazy. What's been some of your like favorite winners?
Oh, wow. There is going to be tough. I mean, we've had one winner 2 years ago that it's just kind of aimed at millennials, teaching them about really being smart with their money, managing their money and investing. Yeah. Started in Spain, and it's just become so popular. Their growth is insane, the number of downloads they're getting. And we've had a few. We had one in Africa that I really loved that was getting people to invest in the environment. So you could go on their platform and like literally invest in different parts of the African environment. And, you know, ultimately that's one of the best investments on how that pays off to every sector in the economy. We've had some where someone could, you know, in parts of the Middle East, they created something where women could report or get counseling or something for harassment or domestic violence or whatever, and it just uncovered this huge need because a lot of women couldn't talk to the police, they couldn't talk to their neighbors, they literally couldn't mention anything, so it like uncovered this huge shadow base that, you know, had no outlet before. So there's a lot of things like that, you know, a young girl wanted to build it, and, you know, it didn't require a lot of technology, but has such an amazing impact.
Yeah, so are most of these like apps?
Yeah, most of them are apps, some web apps, some for the phone, but yeah, all of our stuff is just tech-enabled.
Gotcha, so it's like kind of like changing their lifestyle almost with some of the apps? Like in the foreign
Definitely.
countries?
Yeah, so even, I mean, with someone in Dubai made something around depression, you know, getting more access to wellness resources and mindfulness resources for so many of the people that are working there, separated from family. You know, there's just, it's amazing because we allow the participants in each of the participating cities to kind of determine the problems that they're the most passionate about. So it's fun to go see the demo days because you're seeing just such, you know, fresh thinking around these problems that are just being ignored in a lot of ways. Like, I mean, even when you look at the UN Sustainable Development Goals of like, okay, these are the biggest problems humanity is going to have over the next 10 years, you don't see investment going towards a lot of those kind of problems globally. So, you know, we're trying to do that and allowing the youth in a lot of these countries where they're living in the problems, they have a lot of the best ideas that it's just a very smart investment that has a high ROI. Like, we've even seen foreign aid programs that pump so much money into, you know, cookie cutter solutions or worn out solutions, and you know, I saw one report in Pakistan of like $10,000 was only put into this startup accelerator and had a much higher impact than millions that were put in, you know, some of the traditional systems.
Yeah. How many hackathons do you have a year, you said?
We have about 80 to 100.
Okay.
But we have, you know, about 50 every year that will be through our global series competition.
So how do you pick where it's going to be?
Oh, we're doing in that process right now, and it's always a journey because there's so many places we want to go and so many places that, you know, really want more of these kind of opportunities. But we try to pick cities that will have that talent, you know, really strong talent that is hungry for this opportunity. Like, we also don't want to go to places that are so saturated with a million hackathons. So we try to pick places that have that high potential and that also have partners. We love to work with local partners that also will kind of invest in them side by side with us. So, for example, like an accelerator in Kenya gives prizes out at our hackathons and mentors winning teams. And, you know, we love to do that because it's not just a one-way exchange. It's really, you know, it's always been the West kind of teaching their ways to the world, but like, it really is amazing to have this exchange of their wisdom, and we learn a lot from each of the cultures that we encounter.
Yeah, is there any country that you really want to go to?
I would love to. I mean, there's so many still that we haven't done. Like, even Iran. I'm half Iranian. Yeah. I know the scene there is so amazing. Like, of the tech talent and people that are, you know, hungry for more support and opportunities. So many. I mean, just Saudi, another one that we will probably go to this year. I love going to places like that where where we're trying to do some around women that, haven't had as many opportunities in the Middle East. But, that list is endless. There's, so many new cities that get this emerging tech scene that just has that excitement factor.
Yeah, didn't you say you lived in the Middle East, or you traveled there all the time, or you lived there part-time?
I haven't lived there, no, but for the past few years, as we've been doing the program, spending a lot of time in the Middle East and Africa. Those are my two regions focusing on. Gotcha.
So what's it like going over there all the time?
It's very exciting. I feel like I just learned so much and encounter so much beauty, and as a lot of the world is kind of becoming the same in the modernization process. I always look at it like, this is also the competitive advantage of all these beautiful cultures that, I don't want to diminish. So I go there, and I've always been amazed, like even just in Dubai, like the scene around supporting innovation and the excitement about all the, future visions and goals. It's just really contagious. And, the environment they're building for young change makers and young innovative thinkers is so exciting. Like, I just went to the huge government-funded area that was all about youth learning in such an exciting, innovative way, where they could play with so many new tech tools. And even I walked into this cafe that was the most beautifully designed cafe I've ever been to, and they said it was all designed by under 14-year-olds. Yeah. So places like that, and then seeing like subcultures in places like Nigeria or Afghanistan, like all this, there's a movement in Afghanistan of reverse brain drain. The youth, the movement has always been to leave the country in a lot of the world as soon as they get good education or opportunity. So the best minds that are the most likely to evolve their societies are leaving. But this movement was like bringing all these amazing young people that had incredible educations. They all could get jobs in Europe or the U.S., and they're living in Afghanistan, and they're just building these incredible places to, provide support for the young innovators. And seeing things like that is always really exciting.
Yeah, it's crazy. I feel like I'm going on a world tour just talking to you.
No, it's beautiful. I know. I wish I could publish a book of all the, these emerging scenes that we encounter of all over the world. I'm always, my coworkers are telling me stories from all over Asia and, South America. It's just endless.
Do you guys ever do videos and stuff, like vlogs or anything like that?
We do, yeah. Well, we have even the AngelHack Instagram that some of us will do takeovers and do kind of stories going through some of these emerging tech hubs. So that might be an interesting place to see some of it. But I hope we do put some more, in other platforms just to, tell some of the stories. I think it's beautiful to really see that. It just gives me so much hope, because I think, we've had conflict amplified in media in so many ways, and people feel enmity. But then, always seeing around the world, wow, the average person all kind of wants the same thing. They all want to build this beautiful future, mm-hmm. and they have more in common with each other than with a lot of governments, So it's nice to see this community, and especially in the tech startup world, they all have that kind of forward-thinking attitude of even the open source movement. We see that at so many of our hackathons. So some of the teams that win and get opportunities, they make all their technology open. They don't even care about getting credit. They're just we just want to contribute to these causes. So seeing all of that gives us a lot of hope for the future.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you guys do stuff in the U.S. too, right?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, we'll have at least 5 hackathons or around that in the U.S. This year.
Gotcha. And jumping into women in tech, what have you seen? Have you seen women grow in business and tech over the past few years, I guess you say?
Yeah. I think it's definitely an exciting time. We always start thinking about. I hear a lot of people in the U.S. talk about the gaps in opportunity, and I think it's true. I think I saw the most recent report was still 2% of VC funding was going to women. So, and globally, I think when you see the numbers globally, I saw a report that was saying like 2/3 of the world's working hours are from women, but they only have 10% of global income, which is insane to think about because so many of the lowest billion in poverty are women. So I think in a lot of the world, it's interesting, like where they weren't raised in that way that technology was a path for men. In a lot of the world, like women are equal in the field of technology or even having a higher number of women. So it's amazing. We'll go like a lot of the Middle East, we bring the experts to teach the hackathon attendees about AI, and it would be a woman. A lot of the time it was really awesome to see. But I think we are entering that stage. Like, there's a lot more interest in investing in women because they're performing really well as entrepreneurs when they're looking at the numbers. And it's crazy because I think we're not even at the place, like we think we're the most advanced gender-wise society, but I don't think we're even at the place of a lot of ancient cultures.
Yeah.
Like even the old Iranian culture had women were considered some of the greatest advisors, so all the businessmen and commanders of military and kings would have female advisors, and it's exciting because I think we are getting to that place again where it's really being valued. Even at the hackathons that we had focusing on women's issues, in a lot of the world, a lot of men came and they're like, this is, a really important issue for our society, and they're all thinking about their daughters. So yeah, I think we're seeing just really exciting signs and signals of how all of that is going to change all over the world.
Yeah, and in your opinion, how do you think it's going to change in, say, 5 to 10 years?
I think it looks. I mean, if the trend will continue, the number of people getting some investment will rise, and I don't like to just think of investment numbers because I do think that model is kind of broken, and we've kind of still been exporting it, and people have been trying to copy it around the world. But I think that, looking at the trends of democratizing access to capital so that average people can experiment, because I mean, for me, it's not just women, it's poor people, poor people that have less money have had such a small real chance at getting their ideas experimented in. But then we also know that they do such an amazing job. Like if you look at some of the most amazing successful innovators, came from real, tough backgrounds. And so I'm always thinking it's just sad that we're still not at that place where if someone has a great idea, no matter where they are, they can at least get some experimentation. And I think as even things like I'm seeing a lot of these funds coming out that you don't need to be an accredited investor, and like the 22X fund that links with 500 startups, average people could invest in a accountable way with founders. So I think it's going to be really interesting how that pans out over the next 5 to 10 years. Where if someone just has an amazing idea, there'll be a little more accountable way to really experiment, and then have support from mentors. And I see people really building innovative models around that. So I think it hopefully will matter a lot less, like those little factors like your age or your gender, any of those things.
Yeah, for sure. Are you ready for some fun questions?
Yeah, sure.
So if you had to create an app, what kind of app would you create?
Oh, wow. Okay. I definitely think about it. I'm always at hackathons. I'm like, sometimes I'm like, I should go back and participate. I think I'm very passionate about wellness and health, and I always think it's very strange, the conflict in our industries, how the health industry profits off sickness, not wellness. And we've just forgotten so much of the ancient wisdom around that. Even just India alone, the old Ayurvedic, the science of life, not just for wellness, for energy, it's almost like the technology of the human body. They mastered it, and we just lost all of that. So I think some kind of, there might be something like this, but an app that would really bring that wisdom into modern life in an easy, digestible way. That would be something amazing. I mean, I guess just democratizing different industries, that's always kind of my favorite thing. Whether it's, I just want to see more artists supported, not just technologists, but any platforms that would help people invest in artists or designers or, musicians, whatever. I think that would be like a really exciting platform.
Gotcha. Yeah, that'd be interesting. And like the whole time we were doing this interview, just the hackathon just reminded me of like Shark Tank. So like, are you a fan of that show?
Wait, which show? Silicon Valley?
No, Shark Tank.
Oh, Shark Tank. Oh, okay. Oh, definitely. I love watching that. And it also kind of shows some of the problems with the space. I think sometimes when you watch it, you're like, you see an idea that's really amazing, and they're like, oh, just because you're not putting profit totally first, like, we're not going to invest in you, or there's like an ego battle, and that's real. Like, that's like, people in the space see stuff like that all the time, like, or when no one invests in an idea that is really targeted for poor people, but they don't relate because they don't have that experience. Like, why, they're like, I think Eco Flowers was like on, and they were like, we don't understand why anyone would want this. We like fresh flowers, but she proved them wrong so bad,
Yeah.
and the huge market. So I do love watching it, and I think it's awesome for young people that now see. I think because it gets you dreaming and gets you passionate, and now we just need, more doors opening up. I was watching with my niece, Biz Kids, that is just, it was so amazing. I was like, I wish this was around when I was a kid, because it was encouraging children to be, play around with entrepreneurship in a fun way. And it is fun. It's like the best education. You're learning about so many spaces. And hey, why not, like, be smart about thinking about money at, even at a younger age. So
Yeah, for sure. I think even like Shark Tank itself, like I don't know what I was watching, but instead of the kids want to become entrepreneurs now instead of like an athlete or an actor, actress, and stuff like that now.
yes,
Which is cool, I think.
I think it's amazing, and I hope that that's the direction that we go. I mean, even in business in general, like I just saw a report showing that we're moving the opposite direction overall. Like, we're moving towards higher concentration in industries where it's just a few, like most of the domination is just with a few players. Like, it's gotten much worse over the past 20 years. But we know that that's not good for society. Like, we know everyone works harder and everyone is more lit up and connected and putting in their heart and soul when they feel some kind of ownership stake. But instead we're kind of concentrating ownership. So, and companies that have been experimenting with that model of like employee ownership and, all of like, it's just, they outperform other businesses like crazy. And so that's my hope as we go in that direction, that, where anyone can like feel some sense of entrepreneurship in their life, even if it's just a small portion of a company they're working for. Yeah,
definitely. Last one. If UCLA and Georgetown are playing in a sporting event, who are you rooting for?
That's awesome. I've never been that into sports, so I don't want to disappoint you too much. But if I was picking loyalty in some battle, that would be really hard for me. I would take it as a sign from life, which one won, and I like to do that. I like to make it a signal from the world, because I couldn't pick between the two, because they each played such an amazing role at different stages of my life. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, right now I might say Georgetown's my favorite right now, because I'm still lit up from all the social justice energy I got there.
Gotcha. Well, I appreciate you coming on, and where can people find you and AngelHack on social media?
So AngelHack HQ is our Instagram. I'm Lila Live on Instagram. That's just, I'll post about a lot of our hackathon adventures there. And we're also on Twitter, same name.
All right, thanks. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.